Good morning, good afternoon and good evening and welcome to What is America to You? I am your host Derek Dempsey. I'm coming at you from New York. Okay, before we start our next interview and introduce you to our next guest, as always we ask you, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, What is America to You, and click the like button. No dislikes for now. Eventually, you know, but right now we need all the love we can get. Also, please continue to comment. We're getting some great comments and we'll always respond. So, okay. Our next guest is novelist, actor, political activist, singer and satirist. He is possibly, in my opinion, the greatest extemporizer of modern and ancient wit to come out of the Isle of Ireland since the great Oscar Wilde. His novels include the critically acclaimed A Monk Swimming, which is quite hard for me to say because I know it's a mondegreen, which we'll get into. Also, Death Need Not Be Fatal, which has the cover alone. If you can't read, just get the book for the cover. Because Malachy is lying on a bed of silk in a coffin and he's grinning at the camera like, come on, try me. Just brilliant. Also, he's been in many Hollywood movies, and I'll name three of those. One was The Devil's Own, and I heard at the end of near the end of the movie, Brad Pitt called his people and they said, "I want that man off. He's taking too much attention from me." So that's the way these things happen when you're Irish like us and good looking. Yeah. He's also been in The Field and the movie Green Card, which is timely because my green card will be getting given back to the government and I'll be becoming a citizen on September 10th. Yee-hoo! I'll be an American citizen. In a strong field of clever and witty sayings from our next guest, he was once asked for life advice and he said, "Never clean a window with a soft-boiled egg." And I can't help thinking that he was alluding to the great Jonathan Swift's Big Endians and Small Endians in Gulliver's Travels, but I'll ask him. And he also said, organised religion has all the facets of organised crime except for the compassion of organised crime. And lastly, before we introduce him, he said the difference between a saint and a sinner is that a saint is just a well-edited sinner. Okay, without further ado, it's our honour and privilege to introduce to you Malachy McCourt. Welcome to What is America to You. How are you, Malachy?
Hello there, Derek. What an introduction. And I'm glad I'm not dead. I'm glad I'm here to hear it. Even though you had me in that coffin, or I had myself in that coffin. And the funny thing about that picture, the publisher of Death Need Not Be Fatal, excuse me, was a little dubious about putting a picture of me in a coffin. As they say here, I don't know what's the difference between a coffin and a casket. But anyway, if I always say, you know, when you wake up in the morning, if you see the ceiling, you should be grateful you're still alive. If there's a coffin lid in front of your nose, don't bother. There's no point in it. It's useless. So don't do that. But if there's a ceiling, get your arse up and off you go. Anyway, where was I? Oh, yes. Anyway, great to hear your that introduction. I'm still alive. Many thanks, my dear man.
It's only a small amount of what you've done. But, you know, my view on death is very much that if and when death comes for me, I reckon the next day there'll be headlines in your newspaper saying, death has been killed, opportunity for job open. I'm going to kill it. It's not going to get me. And I think that's how you see it.
Well, I was thinking about it. Now, we are a species, human race, right? The strangest thing about it is that we have 100% mortality rate here. 100%. Now, we've been around for I don't know how many millions of years as human beings, but Jesus, isn't it about time to do something about that? The thing to do is to cure death. Now, there is this marvelous man in the White House, and he does everything. And I have been, I know I'm an atheist, thank God, but if there is a God, I think that I'm importuning him or her to summon the America's hemorrhoid, which is also named Trump. He's a pain in the arse. And if we got him to be summoned up, I think they always put up, and there is, because heaven has gone to hell. And I think what we need to with this guy is that he should go and make heaven great again.
Malachy,
Because this God guy is screwing it up. And then after he does that, he can fuck off to hell. And then spend the rest of eternity there.
Malachy,
So there it is.
I told you I would not make it through this interview. Oh my God. Listen to Jessica dying over there. I think you may be sending us to one or the other place. You know, Malachy, my take on the whole heaven and hell thing, I'm also an atheist. And why did God make me an atheist? But my take really briefly is I believe in absolute kindness to human beings. And if I'm wrong, and let's say all of a sudden we all die now and the three of us are like, oh, there is a heaven. I don't want to go there for the one simple reason. I couldn't be in a party where everything was great while there were people suffering in another room next door. And I'm not trying to be overly moral. I just think you wouldn't do it. And I even think the worst people in the world wouldn't just go, well, screw them. We're here in a good place. We did the right thing. They did the wrong thing. You and I and Jessica and most people we know would run and help those people. So I don't think it would be moral for me to go into this place. That's my take.
Well, Derek, my dear friend, I think I've got to enlighten you as to what heaven is. Right? Now, it's a place where people sit where? At the right hand of God, right? So they're sitting at his right hand. And what you have to do for eternity is observe God's right ear. You watch the hairs growing. Then to the left of God, there's myself and Karl Marx. The left-hand side is not populated at all, you see. So there is this God guy sitting there, and that's what heaven is about. Just sitting looking at the hairs growing in his ear.
Well,
that's it.
If you're there, I'll bring along one of those. I have one of those ear cleaner things, you know.
Yes, yep.
Manscapers. I'll bring it with me and we'll sort out those ears.
Okay, you'll have to send that by Amazon, right?
But Jeff Bezos might be there. Malachy, could I ask you about you met Elizabeth, I think she might be a royalty of somewhere in England. You met Queen Elizabeth II one time,
the Queen? Yeah. I did. It was one of those strange things. I was a member of the New York Rugby Club in the 50s, and at that time it was run by a lot of Brits. So anyway, one night at one of our meetings, they announced that Her Majesty the Queen was coming with the guy she was married to, Phil. And they had tickets for the reception. So they said, would you like? Well, we're giving them out to our members. So for no good reason, I said, I'll take one. I was going out, I was trying to impress this young woman at the time. And so I'll take one. So anyway, I got 2 tickets, asked her, and she was impressed. So we went to the Armory, 66th and Park. And there was only about 3,000 or 4,000 people there. And they were cheering, and all these Brits were going on, and oh, absolutely, old chap. Isn't it wonderful that he's a queen? Blah, 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 blah. So anyway, my date suddenly became weak out of the heat and all of that. So I had to steer her out. And there was a cop standing at a doorway, a guy named that I knew at the time named Jimmy Snow. And I said, Jimmy, I got to get her out of here. He said, fine, go in there. And there's another room on the other side. So we went through this door, crossed the hall, into another empty room, with the exception of a bar and a bartender. So we went out up, got a couple of cognacs, and we sat. And she started to recover. And then all of a sudden, another door opened, and in comes the Queen, Elizabeth II, along with Governor Rockefeller, followed by Phil and the mayor of New York, Mayor Wagner, and a couple of people, 3 or 4 others. And then this guy, Major General guy, came over to me, and he said, sir, could we have your name and the name of the lady? We're about to present the people to the Queen. So myself and the governor and the mayor and my gate and were introduced. So the Queen comes along, and Mr. Malachy McCourt of New York, Miss Elizabeth Ripley of New York, how do you do? How do you do? Then she goes on to the governor, and off they went. So then Philip, after we broke up, he comes over and he said, you're from New York? I said, well, yes, sort of. New York and London and Limerick. Oh, really? He said. And what do you do in New York? Well, I said, I'm a docker, longshoreman. Oh, yes. He said, I see. Well, we sailed in yesterday. He said there were some demonstrations, he said, with some Irish people and so forth. Yes, I said there were. He said, were you among them? I said, no. I said, I was working. Otherwise, I would have been. Oh, how charming, I said. So, so anyway, that's right. So anyway, the Queen comes over, and she said, and Mr. I said, McCourt of Limerick. Oh, yes, Mr. McCourt. And what do you do in New York? And I said, well, I was about to answer. And Prince Philip said, oh, don't ask him, my dear. He's liable to tell you. She said, I see. Good enough. And then she toddled off. And he said, look, it's absolutely marvelous to meet you, old boy. He said, if you're ever in London, would you please look us up? And I said, and where do you live? And he said, oh, I'm at the palace. And he said, people will be able to tell you. Good enough, old boy, I said, and welcome to New York.
Oh,
that is how I met the Queen.
It's amazing how out of touch they are. Look, so people will be able to tell you where we live. Incredible.
Yes. Well, it was... Anyway, he was a bit amused by the whole encounter.
As we are many years later. Malachy, you wrote in your book, A Monk Swimming. I want to just read a little paragraph to refresh your memory, and I'd love to get your opinion on this many years later, and I hope I have it correctly, so just indulge me for a second. Kenneth Tynan once said that the only people who can do Russian drama outside of the Russians themselves are the Irish. I presume that's because we are somewhat manic in the mood department. It's no bother to soar from the darkest depths to the mountaintops of delight, with the heart born by all of that which is alive and singing. It's even less bother to swan dive into the pits of despair and total hopelessness with the realization that it's no use being Irish unless you know the world is eventually going to break your heart. Brilliant. I love that.
Yeah, well, that was Daniel Patrick Moynihan said that.
Ah, that's why I have it wrong. I apologize.
So I was quoting him. He was a senator from New York, and he was a marvelous man. His mother owned a bar on the Lower West Side, and had no idea, but I had this saloon, Malachy's on Third Avenue, and one day this older woman came in, and she said, "Oh, I saw you on television," and so forth and so on. And she said, "I'm in the business too." And she said, "Uh-huh." So we chatted, and she told me she had two sons. One worked in Wall Street, and the other, she said, was in Washington. But she didn't tell me that her son was Senator Moynihan, and that her son was. So that's we got to be quite friendly because she came in and at frequent intervals. But anyway, he oddly enough he became ambassador to India, uh, and he worked for Nixon. And but he was a moderate kind of a
Right.
guy, Democrat, decent kind of a
Right.
man. Yeah.
I just love what the whole thing about. I've said that for years. I'm a particular fan of Mikhail Bulgakov, who wrote The Master Margarita and A Heart of a Dog and The Country Doctor's Notebook. And, you know, we all know a bit about Russian plays and they mention them.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I really do think that we have that similarity in them. We almost wallow in the depths of despair and smile and laugh at it, us Irish.
Yeah. It's so easy as we were conquered people, and the Russians were uh, ground down by czars all those centuries.
Yep.
And then Lenin came in 17 and promised to raise the people up. But then he had this other guy to his left, Stalin, and Lenin he had, like as somebody said about Lindsay, the mayor here, that he was the man that gave good intentions a bad name. and and so Lenin couldn't make it, and things got worse. So the Russians then were just crushed, but their own spirits raised them up again and then down again. And the Irish were like that. We had 800 years. And then you have strange things happening. What A.E. Russell, George Russell said, you eventually become the thing you hate the most. And so many of the Irish now are conservatives. Now, conservatives, not all conservatives, again, another quote, are stupid, but all stupid people are conservative. And these Irish, they think that surround Trump, the Mulvaneys and the Flynns and the Kellys and Halfpence, the vice president, they think that they're rising up by stepping on the bodies of other people. And it's just, they are, I'm not proud of being Irish because we have nothing to do with it, with what we are born.
Exactly.
Right? Our parents pop into bed one night and they do what we can never imagine our parents doing, which they do. He puts it where it shouldn't be put, and then all of a sudden we pop out. And then we say, I'm proud, but there's a lot to be ashamed of. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
There is. And you know,
that is the
Malachy,
problem.
you know what I'm proud? I want to be proud to be human again. To be proud to be from planet Earth. So, you know, make planet Earth great again. That's what we need to do. And to as a whole, because we got to live together no matter what. Conservatives, Democrats, socialists, we all have to live together. And it seems that we're finding it more and more difficult to live together, you know?
Well, here we have these people. They use the word socialist using the same pejorative tone of that it's of a child molester, something evil,
Yeah.
or something like that. But when you look at about socialism. When you look at it's a government. The government runs everything. Well, when you look at what we do have in the way of the government, right? We have police paid for, fire department paid for, sanitation paid for, bridges paid for, air control paid for, social security paid for, welfare paid for, food stamps paid for, roads paid for, street lights paid for, traffic lights paid for by the government. So what the hell is wrong with socialism when they have to... So, okay, let's do away with the fucking lights and the police department and the fire department and the sanitation. Let the roads and let the bridges all fall down. Highways. And let them all go. We'd see who pays for them then.
That's a great point.
So that is what happens. This socialism.
You know, socialism, I always take things on the macro and the micro. Like, no matter what it is, politically, I try to look at it in the micro with my family, my immediate family. And socialism does begin at home, because if you got 3 kids and 2 of them have eaten well and the other one gets out of bed late because they don't feel well, and you've only got 1 meal left, you give it to the 3rd kid. Same with a pair of shoes, the same with school books, the same with an extra blanket. If you got the 3 kids on a cold night and 2 of them have 2 blankets and 1 has 1 and you have an extra, you give it to the 3rd kid. So the basic, to me, I've no problem with the basics of socialism. So what you say there makes perfect sense.
Public schools as well, which I did not mention in that long list. But we, as you probably know, Derek, on account of Frank's Angela's, my brother Frank's Angela's ashes, the poverty that we endured. I am one of 7. Now, 3 died in childhood, my sister, and that caused us to go to Ireland. And then when we got to Ireland, within 2 years, my 2 brothers, they were twin boys, they died. And then two or more were born, so there was 4 of us. Then my father took off, drunk and all of that. So we didn't get to education. Frank and myself left school at the age of 13. But the thing that saved us was the love we got somehow or another of reading. And then the library came, and it was like the gates of heaven had opened up. So that's what we got. Any sort of mostly autodidacts, I think they call it. We self-educated, and there's that love. Now you are an extraordinarily talented man. You have the gift of language, and you're a terrific musician, most innovative, joyful, and you do bring joy. And here you are doing this show, this program, bringing joy again. And that's a great mission that you have, and I have to compliment you on that as well.
Thank you, Malachy. Get me emotional now. Thank you.
Well, it's the truth I am telling, and there is, and I'm delighted to be able to sit and chat with you. If you look behind me, one of my dreams when I was a kid, that one day that I would be able to lie in my bed and there would be electric light, that miracle, and that I would have a book and there would be a pillow and there would be a sheet clean and I would read in my bed. And that has come true.
Malachy, I want to go back to what you just said there about I dreamt that there would be electric light. This is not coming from somebody who was born in the 1800s. This is coming from somebody who was born the same century as me and my father. To actually pull it into you I didn't long for electric light. We didn't have a lot of money. I was born in '68, and like yourself and your brother Frank, I'm also an autodidact. How much I've taught myself, that's debatable, but still I did. I left school at 14. But to say, from a man, like I say, born in the same century as me, one of your hopes was to have electric light. That puts things in perspective with iPhones and cars and college graduation. Really, I had to say that.
Yeah, I mean, those things, like, it was, my mother used to, put out that candle, you're wasting it when we're trying to read. Because that was the only illumination we had. We had one lavatory outside our door that serviced the 16 families. And they came down with their buckets, empty them in there, and then the smell would permeate our door, come right in, and the whole bloody place smelled of shit and piss and horror. And you just think, you wonder, and poverty. Derek, there's a difference. People say, "Oh, we were poor too." There is no connection between poverty and poor. It is like the difference between cancer and a head cold. That's how severe poverty is. Poverty is fatal. Poverty, there is no hope. There's darkness and there's despair, speaking of, and there's bigotry, and that you're an automatic criminal.
Absolutely.
We went to a school that was a beginning place for future convicts. That's because we were all expected to be criminals, and a lot of us were. I mean, and a lot of kids went to the reformatory. You get caught stealing an apple or something. 4 years.
Malachy,
in the reformatory.
That reminds me of and I hope I get the quote right. Victor Hugo in Les Miserables said, "Where there is darkness, crimes will be committed. But the guilty party is not he or she who commits the crime, but it's he or she who created the darkness." And that fits right in to what you're talking about. It's a crime to be guilty. It's a crime to want to feed your children and have to steal a loaf of bread, like in that book.
Yeah. We used to get, St. Vincent de Paul used to give us a docket to get 5 shillings worth of food in a month. And we used to have to go to one shop to get some milk, some tea, some bread. And then if you had, so 5 shillings. So if you had, say, you spend 4 shillings, 4 bob, and 10 pence. And the mother would say, get a couple of sweets. We would, candy as the sweets, as you know. And and these women they were nice, good Christian Catholic women. Is it sweets you want? Well, that's not for sweets. That's for food. And they would take the 2 pennies and get reimbursed from St. Vincent de Paul because we asked for sweets. There was that kind of an attitude.
Extra punishment. Extra punishment on top of, as you said earlier on, your mother and father went to bed, did what you shouldn't have done. You guys popped out, and geographically, you were put into that position. It wasn't your fault, just like it wasn't somebody who was wealthy. Their fault they were born. But you mentioned a lot of that. I've seen the movie Angela's Ashes. I've read the book, and they I think they do it very well, the whole Vincent de Paul thing in the movie. Plus, I want to say that they really picked a good-looking lad, more so than anybody else, to play your part. Tell me a little bit about that.
Peter Alpin.
Yeah.
The kid. Yeah, he's here. He's a very good actor. Yeah. He's in his 30s now, and he's a professional actor. And I was introduced to him by Claude Boyer, Brendan Boyer's daughter, and she brought him along one day, and we're quite good friends now.
I wanted to ask you also. You mentioned that, and I say the same thing. Islanders are nuts. Anybody from an island, we're all a bit nuts. What do you think causes that? Because I always say people from Tipperary, they're the nicest people you'll ever meet, but I feel sorry for them because it took them 2 days to get to the beach, you know? But what about the rest of us? We are all a bit kooky in Ireland.
Well, I say when you look at island people, you know, Sicilians and Maltese and Isle of Man and all, Manx. But I think the reason why island people are cuckoo is the inexorable sound of the sea. It comes zoom, whom, zoom, whom. And whether we know it or not, but that sound keeps going 24 hours a day. And say, in the name of Jesus, will you turn it off? We think. That's just driving me nuts. And we don't know it, but that's what it is. It is sound.
Probably.
But I don't know. You're isolated, I think. I really don't know why we're cuckoo.
Yeah.
Really. But that's one of my explanations.
I say a lot of it had probably also got to do with, you know, islands were easy to colonise, and we've all been almost every island's been colonised. Plus, I hate to say this, but it's probably our gene pool was a little tighter because we were smaller, and maybe that might have some...
little mixture there.
Yeah. I think that might be a little bit like the not.
I think you might have it there, Derek. Yeah.
Listen,
we were doing things that we didn't think Catholics did. The dirty things.
Speaking of which, you once sold Bibles door to door. Is that...
Yes.
That's amazing.
Now, I summer of 1956, I think it was. A couple of people and myself, we took a house on Fire Island. So I saw there was an ad in the paper for salespeople. So I applied, and I was selling Bibles. So you went around door to door. So you tried to see what was on. If it was Ginsburg, or that's Jewish. Well, the history of Jewish people in America, that's what we had as well. And then you would see Windsor. You say, well, they're Protestants. So that's the King James Version of the Bible. And then if you saw McCarthy, that was the Douay version of the Bible. So you had to know a little bit about the differences between these. We didn't sell the Quran yet. But anyway, so I used to go up and down the beach on Fire Island with a Bible in one hand and a glass of whiskey in the other. And it was but naked people don't have any money to buy Bibles. You see, that one is what was.
And if they did, wherever they kept the money, you wouldn't want it.
That's right. Yeah, stuck down there.
Yeah, I also wonder, maybe Jefferson's Bible might have been one of the best ones, you know?
Yeah, that was his own idea. Well, the Bible, it's a great book, by the way. It is terrific. There's everything. There is murder. There is incest. There is multi-marriages. There is every sin that you could possibly think of in there. It makes great reading. And it threatens all your enemies with perdition. It tells you about hell and where they're all going to go. People that offend you, where they're all going.
So there's a lot of people I know go to hell. But you know what it's missing? Humor. I never once laughed while reading it. There's no humor for me in it. No jokes.
Really? Oh, Jesus. It's the funniest damn thing in all the world.
Well, you know what? Malachy, when we spoke on the phone, I asked you, would you mind doing, at the end of the interview, would you mind doing the Proust questionnaire? And
go ahead.
Oh, excellent. Okay. So basically, I'm sure you've done this before. And the idea is just to give the first thing off the top of your head, and You know,
Yeah, yeah.
short, snappy answers, and which are no problem with
Yeah.
you. Okay, so the first question, it's a shortened version. The first question, what is your idea of perfect happiness, Malachy?
My idea of perfect happiness would be that a good night's sleep.
Like that one, Jessica, you need that. I need that right now. What is your greatest achievement?
That I woke up this morning.
What is your greatest extravagance?
The greatest extravagance. Doing nothing.
What is your current state of mind?
I am the happiest man on the earth.
Oh, that's great.
That makes me the second happiest.
Yes, me too.
What do you consider the most overrated virtue?
Happiness.
Oh, I like that one. What is the quality you most like in a person?
Humor.
Which words or phrases do you most overuse?
Sorry.
Very Irish of us. Very Irish of us.
Canadian.
I'm Canadian. I'm sorry for existing.
Yes.
What do you most value in your friends?
Love.
Oh, nice. Which historical figure do you most identify with?
Oh. Jesus.
I could have put a bet on that and lost $1 million that wouldn't be your answer. Okay, so our last question is not from Proust, but it's the question which is the title of our show. Malachy McCourt, what is America to you?
America, it is, how will I phrase this? I know what it is, and that it is hope, gives me hope.
Brilliant.
That's what America, it's a place of hope.
Brilliant. And I feel the same way. Malachy, I came here 20 years ago to live, and like I said, I have my citizenship interview on the 10th of September.
Congratulations.
Thank you. When I called the
Yeah.
other day, because my citizenship interview was April 14, but with the COVID it was cancelled. So when I called, I was on hold, not for terribly long, maybe an hour. And the woman that was on the other end was really nice. And when she told me, I'm an emotional person, I got a little emotional. And I said, I'm sorry, I'm just very emotional. She said, that's okay, honey. That's okay.
Yeah.
And which was nice to have that on the other end, because we always think, government buildings and bureaucracy are all barking at you. She was very sweet. So I'm going to wear my best suit and go down and do my interview, and hopefully I will become an American citizen. I adore Malachy. What I love about America is the people. Even I love the spirit of Americans, the collective spirit.
And that's very good. I'm glad you said that, Derek. That to me is one of my favorite things to say. It is you cannot love a country. You can only love human beings. and that's one, love is something many times is just a one way. We think what's love is what we bestow on others, but that doesn't work. True love is that which you give out and which is returned. It's single love, and there's real love, which is that. So you are quite right. In love, you can only love people.
Yeah, thank you. Well,
That's it. You can't love rocks.
No, you can't.
Or mountains.
Or a government or a political ideology. That's a difference.
Yeah.
But the spirit, what America has done for me, it's given me everything. And that's not putting Ireland down, but this country, I couldn't make a living in Ireland. I couldn't do this in Ireland. There's so many things and it wasn't because I couldn't get up my ass and do it. But the difference between that won't work, you can't do that, and great idea, let's do it. That makes.
Well, there's only one thing missing in that I would like to see here, which would be public lavatories. There are none.
That's true. There are none.
No, and in Rome, it's the law that if you have a restaurant, you have to let people. But you go here, you have to hold it.
Yeah.
Well, Malachy, on that note, we have to hold it and say, we're honoured and grateful, and I know you and I could talk for hours and hours.
That we could, and you have a grand gift for the language, and please keep using it. And best to Jessica too.
There she is, right there. I always say she's on the wrong side of the camera. She should be on this side. Malachy, McCourt.
Well, that's the unlucky camera.
There you go. I'm trying to get her on more and more. We will. Soon I'll be just relegated to making tea or coffee for her. You know?
No shit.
Well, we both love the women of the world, so we're in agreement.
Well, let me come over to say hi then.
She's going to come over and say hello, and make sure we're recording. Are we recording this?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yes.
Hi, Malachy.
There we are.
We'll social distance.
Gorgeous.
Thank you so much for coming. I can't hear you because I don't have my earphones in, but.
Well, she has a great smile, and there it is.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thanks, love.
We'll talk to you real soon, though. I'm gonna come back as soon as we're done the show.
Malachy, thank you very much once again, and hopefully we'll have you on when you have a new book or a movie, or you become the president or the mayor of New York City or the United States. Thanks a million, Malachy.
Thank you very much, Derek, and blessings on your cranium a day at a time.
Thanks, Malachy. Have a great afternoon. Blessings on your cranium.
Blessings on your cranium.
Oh, man. By the way, I forgot to explain a Mondegreen. When Malachy was going to church as a kid, he'd hear one of the prayers, I think it's called the Lord's Prayer. Blessed art thou amongst women. And he thought it was blessed art thou a monk swimming. And that's called the Mondegreen. And look up Mondegreen and you'll see why. It was something about where somebody thought that that somebody else said Mondegreen. I forget what it is. Anyway, you can check that book out, and Death Need Not Be Fatal, on Amazon. He's an incredible man. He's talking about me having a gift. That man has gift after gift of the English language. Okay, so that's the end of our show. Before we go, we'd like you again to, if you haven't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel, What is America to You? And also click a thumbs up there, give us a like. And as always, we love the comments. We'll always respond to them. And I'm sure this is going to generate a lot of comments, because that was just brilliant. A laugh fest for the first 15 minutes.
We really need your support.
Yeah, we really do at the moment. And anybody who has any sponsors, we're hoping to get sponsorship from the Charlie Chaplin estate. I was over there in last year with Lisa, and we went to see Charlie Chaplin's house. Great moment for me. I'm a lifelong fan. Maybe Charlie Chaplin's museum will sponsor us. Maybe not. Anyway, if you know anybody or anybody wants to sponsor us, we need it. We're begging right now. Where's the bowl? Okay. From me, your host, Derek Dempsey, and the beautiful Jessica, who makes it all happen. And believe me, today was a journey of technical glitch after glitch, and she made it happen. She's incredible. Thanks again from us here at What is America to You. Goodbye for now.
Driving along, minding my own business, heading east through the Kentucky rain. There on the radio, Johnny Cash was singing. I hurt myself just to see if I still feel pain.